All right, thank you, Tech Sergeant Berndt, for joining me today. I know you got a busy schedule, so I appreciate it. So I guess we can start off by go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
I'm Tech Sergeant Berndt. Right now I'm an AFROTC training instructor, and so I'm in charge of doing some administration work for the Air Force ROTC Det at University of New Mexico, and also mentoring and building the cadets while they're going through the program. So where I'm from, I call Wichita Falls, Texas home. That is a little bit before the Air Force, right? Because I'm a military brat growing up, so I call Wichita Falls, Texas home for the fact that I spent junior high on up there. Why I pulled the trigger on going into the Air Force. I knew it was a good way of life for family, for steady paycheck, but back then 18-year-old me joined because I didn't want to go to college. And so I was like, let's just go to the Air Force, steady paycheck, don't have to go to college. I ended up still going to college while being in the Air Force, but the initial reason was I sat in class my physics my junior year, and I was like, I don't want another 4 years of this after high school. In short, I joined the Air Force because I didn't want to go to college, but honestly, I knew it was a good tradition within my family. My dad was first generation Air Force, and he retired through the Air Force, and it was good. The Air Force took care of our family, and so I knew that, and I knew that was something I wanted to be a part of. Like I said, joined 2012, so August of 2012, so just rolling barely over 10 years being in the Air Force. Started off, like every other enlisted member, going through boot camp in San Antonio, Texas. After that, everyone goes to tech school. My tech school was in Mississippi at a Navy base. That was about 5 months long, and then I got to my first duty assignment in Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. And so at that base, we first off tech school, I'm a structural craftsman, so that's what I'm trained to do. So pretty much a general contractor. That's all the 5 months of training that I got. Get to my first base, and 1 week of the 5 months training is what I ended up doing for the next 4 years at my first base. We did a very small part of my career field, which is contingency maintenance. We were just there, open a box, count the parts in the box, make sure all the tent was a complete set, pack the box back up, and then close it up, seal it, and then every 2 years you would have to redo that same container. So being there for 4 years, I was all right. The first 2 years I saw a benefit of work, right? For going to work, I felt good. But whenever I started seeing containers that I signed for 2 years ago, and I'm breaking the seal that I put on because they're all numbered, that's when it started just like, what am I doing? But going from there, I did get 2 deployments out of there, and seeing how important it was, what we were doing, kind of helps your work benefits, and getting a personal benefit from it, because went deployed twice, and we deployed as a J team, which is like a contingency team, and we set up shelters. From there, still stayed within my structural craftsman realm, and went to Joint Base San Antonio, Texas. And there we got a clearance level that we were able to go into secured facilities all around the world. And I was there for 5 years in San Antonio. Went to, I want to say it was 17 different countries within 5 years. Was overseas for 2.5 years of the 5 years. In July of this year, 2022, came to New Mexico. I got picked up for this position. Again, it's not quite structural craftsman work. It's a special duty that I applied for. And I've enjoyed it so far. Working with cadets, working with college students, and seeing them grow. We have anyone from a first-year freshman to a fifth-year senior, and just seeing the maturity level, specifically grow through ROTC. And seeing that happen just within my half a semester here so far has been very beneficial, and I've enjoyed it. I think at a point in my life where, in my career really, where like it's more to pass on traits that I've learned from good mentors, good leaders, to people that are underneath me and that are people still growing, so that way they don't have bad experiences like I did. I think you learn a lot from bad leaders and some from good leaders, but like you learn what not to do with bad leaders, and so learning that and being able to pass that on is very beneficial to me, and I take a lot of pride in that. I enjoy that.
So how do NCOs and officers work together to complete the mission? And how would you describe the NCO officer relationship?
I would say it's different on every scenario, okay? First off, enlisted officer, there's a very strict line drawn in the working environment, and there needs to be respect. Respect for the officer, but also like respect in that you're not going to abuse the enlisted member as well, right? 9 times out of 10, none of that stuff ever happens, but like you're not, as a officer, you're not going to have an enlisted member, hey, go get me coffee. Like that just isn't right nowadays, and so again, that line hardly ever gets crossed. But then also like the enlisted member needs to respect that officer at all times as well. How do we work together to get the mission done? I'd say the Air Force, every department and every squadron, every organization has a mission and vision statement. That vision statement is just like what they want to look at and what they want to look to get done. And that's more the officer realm of things, okay? The officer realm, they instill that mission into the enlisted force, and that mission gets carried out by the enlisted force a lot of times. And so it's up to, especially officer to senior NCO, your master sergeant, senior master sergeant chief, those senior NCOs are looked to carry out the mission, and the officers go to them and like, why isn't the mission getting done? And so each organization comes together to carry out both of those, but like who's actually doing those work, that type of work is a little bit different. But that's varied by every different organization. For a smaller organization like we're currently in, it's a lot of times all hands on deck. So we're all trying to help each other out. It's a little bit more approachable type of area where we could have a conversation with an officer as an enlisted member, and they help us, they mentor us, they guide us. But if I'm at a regular unit, I'm probably going to go to the senior NCO and get that mentorship, that help and stuff like that before I go to an officer. And so again, it varies per unit, and the dynamic varies, but everyone in a healthy unit works together to get that done. In a larger unit, you have more of a vision side of things carried out by the officers, and on the mission side of things, you have the enlisted corps that carries that out.
As an NCO, what skills do you think an officer needs to lead and manage successfully?
I'd say approachability is a pretty big thing for an officer, because that approachability, if they are approachable, it encourages a healthier work environment, in my opinion, because people get along. People aren't scared or walking on eggshells. And so if the officer instills an approachability that they can be talked to respectfully, then it creates a healthier work environment. If someone is not approachable, then people aren't going to want to talk to them. People aren't going to really want to really work for them, really, in some instances. And so I would say approachability is one thing, but also communication. If the officer is not communicating to the enlisted member and the enlisted member is not communicating to the officer, it goes to the approachability thing, right? If they don't feel like they can be talking to them, then they're not going to communicate. And people are going to be either doing the same job, or people aren't going to do the job if it's not communicated. Hey, I got task A, who's taking care of task B? If they don't talk to each other, then task B is not going to get done. And so I'd say approachability and communication are two key factors for a good officer.